Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel. You may recognize this ensemble from what is for me 5 minutes ago and what is for you last week. I am filming my wrap up today, so I'm wondering if I should go in order of when I read them or in order of video. Okay, so I'm just gonna get all the ones that I read for a video out of the way. So you know about these 5 from the video that I just put out. So this is kind of like, if you haven't watched the vlog, oh my god, help. If you haven't watched the vlog, go watch it so you can hear my thoughts as I'm having them, as I'm thinking the thoughts. But 3 stars. This is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. 3 stars for this one. I read this one at the beginning of the month and it took me like 8 days to read it, which is not normal for me. But I also had a similar struggle when it came to The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. So I'm coming to the conclusion that mortality books and books that contemplate mortality and like books that make you think about life just ain't my jam. Apparently I'd rather not think about living. I don't know what that says about me, but oh, let me tell you what it's about. Jeez. This is about a girl who, okay, trigger warning for suicide right now. This is about a girl who wants to die. So she, trigger warning for pills, overdose, etc. So she takes some pills and tries to commit suicide by way of overdose. And essentially, she's brought to this midnight library, and in the library she's able to sort of select different books and pick them up and, you know, read them, and she's transported into that life, and she is able to sort of go through and correct mistakes and things like that. So for example, she regrets not completing like continuing in an activity or something like that. She can pick up a book that will show her where she would have been had she not gone down that particular path. Essentially like a sliding doors moment. Shout out to my friend Grace. It's very much like oh my god, what was it called? She's just trying different lives on. Okay, that's that. Later by Stephen King. This was a 3-star for me. I like this a lot more than, say, Salem's Lot. I liked Salem's Lot, but the thing is with Salem's Lot is like the writing is just so dense and so thick that I am almost, I almost appreciate the fact that this book was written by a 22-year-old, written in the perspective of a 22-year-old, and you can tell. And maybe that's my problem. Maybe the thick, dense writing, like it was still here. There's still plenty of moments where it's like, but it's like you're not wading through a chapter of description with this book. So I gave this one a 3 stars. So this one is about, I should do synopsises first. I should do synopsises first instead of telling you what I thought. So this book is about a boy who can see dead people. And he's sort of taken on a little bit of a quest regarding the fact that he can see dead people, and later is a main theme, like this happened but later, then later on, and stuff like that. So it was a 3-star book. I wasn't particularly, like, there's a little bit of a body horror there, trigger warning for suicide once again. This is not something that I'm particularly offended by, but I'm also completely desensitized. So like if you didn't know, I'm trying, or I'm thinking about reading The Troop at some point this month maybe, or next month, and I'm not even worried because what I was shown with this, I'm like, nah, you know, nah. So next up, I was shocked. Your girl enjoyed a fantasy sci-fi YA. I am just as shook and shocked as you are, but I really loved it. So this is a YA fantasy, fantastical science fiction retelling of the Legend of King Arthur. So we're given a very sort of, we're given just enough to sort of whet our taste buds when it comes to Arthurian legend. We're sort of, this is something for someone who maybe if they haven't read King Arthur or aren't familiar with King Arthur, that it would be palatable for them. So I have some notes here. I took a lot of notes with this one because I noticed that I was getting confused, and I thought at first that it might just be me, but it happened multiple times. Like there was this one particular scene where I didn't realize that they had science fiction. So I'm okay. So what this book represent, or what this book sort of is for me, is like King Arthur meets Illuminae. So space opera meets King Arthur, and like smack them together in the best possible way. This book is very it's a little confusing, but I just went with it because I really enjoyed it. So, for example, they're traveling through space and like planets and stuff, and so they're going from different planets, and it took me like an entire chapter to realize that they had left one planet and gone to old Earth. Another thing is that a lot of this was very convenient. Like how quickly certain characters fell in love. It felt insta-lovey, but in a not insta-lovey way, if that makes sense. Like for at least one of the couples, there was a lot of history, so it didn't feel as insta-lovey, but because you were just meeting them, it felt a lot very quickly. But you know, as you go through and you know, you're getting pieces of the past and you're getting more information about their relationship, it's clear that it's not insta-love. But there's another couple that like they're like kept at an arm's distance, but like they're so into each other, and like could you just like make it happen already? This is also very LGBTQIA plus positive in a way that is not a coming out story. This is, and at no point does anyone come out. We have one character who's very ignorant to everything and is being taught it and like shown like how to refer to people pronoun wise. But this is not a coming out story. There's no one who's coming out and becoming themselves. They just are. So I definitely appreciated that because they were allowed to be gay without it being the focal topic of the book. You know what I mean? So it's not like we're not reading a book where, you know, this character's only defining feature is that they're gay. Like their only personality trait is that they're a lesbian or that they're maybe asexual. It doesn't, like, it's not a thing. Like, it's just they are, and they're allowed to be. So that felt better than if, you know, we were having like these Arthurian situations and we were also dealing with a coming out. So I really loved this book because it focused on the Arthur and the character's story rather than it was very the plot was moving basically. And you know, we did get a lot of character details, but for the most part we did not have time to circumnavigate what makes people tick until the end. But regardless, I enjoyed this. A couple things that I also wanted to mention is that there's like a little bit of blood magic in here, so like if that's something that is super sensitive for you, maybe don't pick this one up. And like I don't know if it's, I don't have the authority to decide whether or not something is offensive because it doesn't affect me, but there is some blood magic. So if this is something, and like I don't know how blood magic like how much blood magic there's actually in it, because I sort of glossed over those scenes, sort of confused, because one of the characters uses someone else's blood to do things. Now I don't know if that's like a blood magic thing or like what was happening with that. I just sort of glossed over them because I was flying through this book. One thing that I did want to mention, this could be potentially a spoiler alert, they're defeating Mercer, which is their big bad. That's their big evil. But apparently Mercer offers 2-day free shipping on loved ones. However, spoiler alert, really quickly. So 2-day free shipping is offered on loved ones, on dead loved ones, to a ship that just happens to have escaped with 3 dead prisoners. Like it was very like point A to Z with no context in between. Let's see. I think that's it. Now again, about the blood magic, I'm not educated enough to know whether or not this is true blood magic or if there was just blood and magic. So there's that. I feel like that was a lot. Let's move on to this book. This is Girl A by Abigail Dean. This is about a girl and her 6 siblings that they're calling the House of Horrors, and their parents were abusive and they tied them up and chained them and bound them, and it was just awful and foul. So definite trigger warnings for all of those type of things. This read more like a documentary, like a true crime, than a fiction. And like, okay, so we have this felt like 150 run-on sentences. So we have, here we go, this is chapter 1. Are you ready for this? Like, you're not even gonna believe this. Here is chapter 7, and this is page 305. So this felt very much like a run-on. Like I listened to it on audiobook because I had already heard some pretty negative things about it, and I was like, if I start to read this one physically, I will never come out of it. I will never ever finish it, and it will just sit there haunting me for the rest of my life. So I ended up picking it up on audiobook, and that did nothing to help me either, because the chapters were like 2 hours long. It was a 12-hour and 50-minute audiobook. 11 out of 10, not for me. That's okay. Not every book has to be for me. The only reason that my son, oh, did I mention that this is for my son picks the books that I read? The only reason my son ended up picking this one, and I did buy it because I buy anything that Book of the Month puts out as a mystery or a thriller. But the only reason that my son picked this one for me is because Abigail, and I'm Abigail. So anyways, with all that out of the way, we'll move on to Not the Girl You Marry. So with this one, I had taken a little bit of notes, but I think I lost them. So I'm gonna wing it. So I felt like this one, did I even tell you ratings? Oh my God, I suck so bad. 2, 4, and I know I rated that one a 3. So, and the other one was a 3 too. So this one is Not the Girl You Marry, and it is by Andy J. Christopher. This one was a 4-star romance for me. I did get stuck a little bit. Let me tell you what it's about. It's about a wedding planner. I'll get better at this. She lied to herself. This is about an event planner, and you know, she's kind of like cold to men because she's had horrible experiences in the past. And then you have a man who is literally like the perfect boyfriend, like completely the perfect boyfriend. So it was quite a little bit of an odd pairing, but I loved it. I really loved it. I felt that with most romance books, you have a conflict that is sort of a last-ditch effort, but you could see the climax, and you could see the conflict coming slowly to a head. And it was a conflict on both ends. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a situation where it's like, come on, conversation, really. This was like a double-sided conflict, and I loved every second of it. You have oftentimes romance novels where there is just a miscommunication or a conflict on one end. Like maybe if one character had changed one single thing, maybe everything would have been different. But with this one, you had both of them doing it, and I was like, I mean, if I can say nothing else for this book, it is the conflict. Okay. And you know, if you know me, you know I'm not someone who particularly enjoys conflict because I feel like it's super cheese. This was like a good conflict, and it was like kind of corny that they were both doing it to each other, but I was like, yes, please. So that was that video. I feel like I keep looking at myself in the viewfinder, and that's okay. I feel cute today. I feel like my eyeshadow might be cute, and I feel like I'll hate it in editing. Moving on. So I read Second First Impressions, and I did an entire video on that. I also, in preparation for that video, I reread The Hating Game as well as 99% Mine, all three by Sally Thorne. So A Second First Impressions was a sort of a flop for me, much like 99% Mine was a flop for so many people. If you're interested in in-depth thoughts on those two rereads, I will link the video somewhere either in the eye or down below. And the vlog with my son picking 3 videos. This one is about a girl who lives in and works in a retirement community, and she's very much embodied sort of an old person mentality. And like low-key me, okay? Like I want to be in bed at 8 o'clock. I like things the way I like them. Like if it weren't for the fact that like I have to do like, you know, young people things like raise a child, I would be in bed at like 7 or 6, like just ridiculousness. But and then you have a bad boy, but he's really a good boy, and I didn't jive with it. Felt very cartoonistic, and I talked about it at length in that video. So rather than talk your ear off, I'm gonna go ahead and refer you to wherever I linked it. I gave this one I gave it a 3-star. And then as far as my reread for 99% Mine and The Hating Game, I stuck with my initial ratings, which is Hating Game 5, and 99% Mine was a 4. So we're sort of 5, 4, 3. And I talked about the reasons for all 3 of these in that video, so I implore you to take a look there. So the final, nope, I lied. I also read Every Vow You Break, and this was by Peter Swanson, and I got this on audiobook because the hardcover is like $20, and I'm like, your girl's a little bit on a budget this month, even though I bought like way too much other stuff. I just wasn't willing to spring $20 for one book. I just can't, I can't, so I didn't. So I listened to it on audiobook, and it was fine. I enjoyed it. I think that I don't really have anything to say about it. It's about a woman who goes on her bachelorette party weekend and has an affair. And her affair follows her to the island that she is having her honeymoon on, and it's a lot. But there's literally nothing I can tell you about it without spoiling it. So I won't say anything at all. I'm giving it, I think, a 3 or a 4. I can't remember what I decided to go with, but that was in preparation for Books and Lala, Kayla over at Books and Lala, and also Gabby Reads. They're both having that as their book club for this month, so I was like, 2 birds, 1 stone, yes. Plus I also wanted to read it, so it's really like 3. So that worked out in my favor. My fiance came home and we got to talking for a little bit, so I don't actually know where I left off, so I'm gonna start from the beginning. So this is about Opal and Nev. Surprise, shocker. No, but it's sort of Daisy Jones and the Six-esque. And so I did choose to read this one on audiobook because it's full cast narration, so spot on there, perfection. But I don't want to mess this up. So it is about a black punk artist before her time named Opal, and she was born in Detroit. And then of course you have Nev, who is a British man, and basically they got together, and if I tell you anything, it's pointless. So I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm just going to tell you to read it, and if you have the option and opportunity to read it on audiobook, I recommend you do that. But I was trying to say before he came home that this is very much Daisy Jones and the Six and Taylor Jenkins Reid's other book, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, in that, oh, this is by Donnie Walton, by the way. I'm sorry, I really suck. But this is like the 2 of those books collide. So you have the sort of behind the scenes from Daisy Jones and the Six, plus the, I don't want to say anything just in case, like the thing with Taylor Jenkins Reid from Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So this book did something that neither of them did, though. still, this book does something that neither of them do. It explores race that is relevant to now, but it was very relevant then as well, and it explores race in a way that's totally different from anything I've ever read before. So if you do have the opportunity to read this book and you have the opportunity to read it audio, I definitely recommend it, because like I said, it is full cast narration, and it's definitely, while I've taken and seen and compared and seen similarities between the other two books by Taylor Jenkins Reid, this does something that Taylor Jenkins doesn't. This does something totally and wholly unique, and I think you should read it. But that is it. I read a total of 10 books, I believe. Let's see, is that right? We got 5 and we got 3 on audio. Yep, that's 10. So I read a total of 10 books in the month of April. I do have physical copies of the other 2 Sally Thorns, but I do not have one of Every Vow You Break. So 10 books total in the month of April. Of those 10 books, I read 5 audio and 5 physical. Of that total number of books, I reread 2, and I was reading 8 for the first time, and of all 10 of them, I own physical copies of 9. I would, however, really like to get a physical copy of Every Vow You Break because I did enjoy it. But regardless, that is it for today's video. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you like me or like to see more from me, please hit subscribe. I'd be so happy to have you. Alright, I hope that you are being safe, washing your hands, taking care of yourselves.